Hey, welcome everybody. This I think was going to be our last year before Pesach because by next Wednesday it will already be Pesach. Um, so we'll cover Pesach. You could spend a long, long time, but there's always more that to cover. But we'll cover what we can tonight, and there'll always be more, God willing, next year and the year after that. Always to continue to learn. So we'll talk about the things. Basically the things that one needs to do to prepare for the Seder. Um, and then and if we are able to do it, start even talking about the Seder itself. So first, the preparations for the Seder. So the first item to discuss is um, the 4 cups of wine. So there are a few things to be aware of that most say that you should use red wine on the Seder night. And this is based on the pasuk which says, "Atira yain ki yisadam," which that pasuk implies that red wine is has more importance. That red wine is thought of as that's good wine because it's red. Some also mention that it's to remember the blood because Paro would bathe. He would slaughter in Israel. Some would say bathe in it. So that's that's why people use red wine. So the question is, can you take white wine and add some red in it, right? If you take white wine and you add red wine into the wine, would that be allowed? Um, so that would seem to be okay because even though it's white wine, now it's red, and now you fulfilled this idea of having red wine. There are some Mishnah Brura. He says that you should not actually do this on Yontif because that's like dyeing. That's like dyeing foods. And you're not supposed to dye foods. You're not supposed to dye. And some are even stringent not to even dye foods over Yontif, over or on Shabbos. Others say it's not a problem at all. So I guess one if one is going to take white wine and dye it, definitely preferable to do it before Pesach begins. But those who prefer white wine and view white wine is better than red wine, then I think you can use white wine anyways. There's just we just spent a few minutes talking about mavushal. Mavushal means cooked, and this is going to be pretty important, a very important result of this discussion that cooked mavushal wine. Some argue that when wine is cooked, it's actually halachically inferior, and one shouldn't use it in kiddush or for the 4 cups that we drink at the seder, um, unless it's of course higher quality or it has better taste to the non-cooked wine. So apparently, in the industry, the way that people look at wine in the wine industry, there's a difference of opinions how cooking the wine actually affects the quality of the wine. Some argue that cooking the wine or pasteurizing the wine is you can't even taste the difference. That the wine is going to taste the same. Others, I guess they're more wine connoisseurs. They insist that no, of course you can taste the difference if they cook the wine versus non-cooked wine. Are you kidding me? Um, I personally, I don't think I'd be able to tell, but there are some who argue that you can tell. So, and apparently, many high-end kosher wines are not going to be mevushal. They're not going to be cooked because um, it is argued that pasteurizing the wine will affect the aging potential of the wine. And so that's why they're not going to want to do it. Um, that that becomes relevant because um, that's one needs to cook the wine, pasteurize the wine in order to in order to have it as a grape juice. So this discussion, can you have cooked wine? Um, can you have this mevushal wine? It becomes very relevant because if you say that you're not allowed to have it, then you can't drink grape juice as your 4 cups of wine. So the OU in the Chuva, they said, can one use grape juice to write in their response? Can one use grape juice to fulfill their 4 cups of wine? So there's a difference of opinions. They quote first Ramosha Feinstein, held that since Chazal instituted the drinking of the 4 cups of wine to feel a sense of freedom, so grape juice should not be drunk. Although it may have the halachic status of wine, it is not an alcoholic beverage, and one only feels a sense of freedom when drinking an alcoholic beverage. Because of course, if there's a possibility that a person will be endangered by drinking the wine, grape juice may be used. So Moshe Feinstein said you cannot use grape juice. This is also the opinion of Rav Elyashiv, they quote from others as well. However, on the other side, you have a bunch of big hitters too. Chazon Ish and the Brisker Rav and the Shriner Rav, they all held that it's unnecessary to drink wine. Grape juice is perfectly acceptable. And apparently they were indeed also great. There are rabbis who themselves drink grape juice at their Seder. And Rosh Zalman said that since grape juice has a status of wine, then you feel freedom when drinking grape juice, even though it's non-alcoholic. So there's that. Those are like the 2 schools of thought. There is another opinion. There's a couple other opinions that the Rav Soloveitchik, he would drink grape juice for the last 3 cups, but he insisted on drinking wine for the first cup. There's opinion, the Rambam, who says that you should not use cooked wine for Kiddush. So since grape juice is always cooked, he said you should only use non-mevushal wine for Kiddush, and then the next 3 cups you use grape juice. Some suggest doing the following, which is adding a little bit of wine into your grape juice, so then you can taste wine in your cup. That's kind of like this in-between opinion. So if you feel like you need to drink grape juice, you definitely have what to rely upon. Those who feel like they need to be stringent and have wine, also you have those who say like that as well. Women or children though who it would be, or men who it would be dangerous for them to drink too much wine, should drink grape juice, and that is not an issue. The other preparations before the Seder is, we will just rattle off a few of them that you need to prepare. Make sure you have karpas. Karpas is a vegetable that we call karpas. And you shouldn't use the same vegetable that you're going to be using for maror, but it should be the same, have the same bracha, which is typically adama. Karpas, they say karpas, that means, if you spell karpas backwards, this is what it's quoted in Mishnah Berurah, is Samich Perech, meaning 600,000, referring to 600,000 Jews who suffered this avodas perech, hard work. That if you take Samich as maybe the first one, that refers to the 60, meaning 600,000, and then perech means hard work. There are also those who say, they like to say karpas stands for carrots, radishes, parsley, celery, karpas. I don't know if that's in Chazal, but some people like to say that. Okay, also you should prepare, make sure you have enough matzah. That really, to fulfill your obligation correctly, you're reading matzah, you need 5 kizis, meaning 5 olives worth of shmur matzah in the Seder. You're gonna have to be eating 2 for moti matzah, 1 for the korech, and 2 for afikomen, which we may get back to. Also, you should prepare maror. So just talk about maror for a second. Is that the Gemara in Pesachim lists that there are 5 types of maror. And the first one listed is chazeret, which we identify as chasa, meaning lettuce. Many Rishonim and Achronim, they say this means lettuce. And the Gemara is clear that, I think Rav Moshe says that the order listed, the order that the Mishnah lists the different types of maror is in order of preference, which one is the best. So the best type of maror, according to the Mishnah, would mean the lettuce. So that means the romaine lettuce, which is what we get, is the most preferable to use for maror. So if that is the case, then one should spend even more to get romaine lettuce than to get horseradish. Almost everyone says romaine lettuce is accepted. However, the Chazon Ish thought it wasn't good, but most people accept it. The second one listed in the Mishnah is something called tamcha, which we identify as horseradish. But some poskim say you shouldn't use horseradish because it's hard to eat the proper amount and could be dangerous. So there is that discussion over there, which is which is better to eat. Um, so there are different opinions what to do today. The opinion of, I think, Rav Schechter, Rav Aaron Kotler, Marcel Leitchik, they're pretty strange, and they say that horseradish is not even mar, so that you shouldn't eat the horseradish as your mar. And what's more than that is don't put the horseradish on top of the lettuce, because then you're making the lettuce, which is the real mar, taste taste not as good. It's not really the practice. A lot of people do put horseradish on top of their mar, but there is definitely that opinion. Um, what's wrong with lettuce? Like, why would you think lettuce is the problem? So there's two problems that people have with the lettuce, which is that number one is that there are bugs. But if you eat lettuce during the year and you check for bugs, right? However you eat lettuce normally during the year by checking for bugs. So you do the same thing when you eat your romaine lettuce during the Seder. The obvious question is, um, why should I eat this lettuce? It's not even bitter. It tastes so good. Right? Lettuce tastes. I can eat so much of this lettuce. The horseradish, that's like the real stuff. That's really bitter. So we're not the ones who came up. We're not the first to ask this question. The Gemara, the Yerushalmi asked this question. They say, yeah, it might not be so bitter when it's fresh, but if you leave it in the ground, then it gets like become this nasty bitter. So the way the poskim understand it is that it's not really an issue that it's not so bitter as long as it has character traits of something that would become bitter, which is indeed what happens to this lettuce. Um, then it's perfectly acceptable and actually the most preferable to use as your mar. Um, they quote there, Baron Cutler would use iceberg lettuce because he was worried about the bugs. But that's most people use the lettuce, and if you really want, you maybe maybe eat the lettuce, and then afterwards maybe eat some horseradish, do a little bit of both. Um, that's something to prepare in advance for the Seder. Also, you should prepare the charoset, which is everyone has a different way of how they make the charoset, but we do that as to remember the cement that was used in the building, the work that was done in Mitzrayim. And many people make charoset from these different fruits that Bnei Yisrael are compared to in Shir Shirim. Like, for example, we're compared to te'enim, which is figs, and agozim, nuts, rimonim, pomegranates, and often people add apples because of this idea that under the apple tree, that was when God awakened us. And then one more thing to prepare is to make sure that on your Seder plate, there's two cooked foods. One is to remember the Korban Pesach, and the other cooked food is to remember the Korban Chagiga. And the custom is to use meat as an egg. So the meat is typically a zroa, shank bone, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu showed the Mitzrim, his Zroa Netziyah, his outstretched hand. And we usually roast this piece of meat instead of cooking it. And if you don't have his Zroa, then you take another piece of meat because you should have some sort of remembrance to the fact that we brought the Korban Pesach. The minhag is to also use a egg, like we discussed for the Chagiga, even though meat may be technically able to be used, we use an egg since an egg is called Baya, or it's really called Beta, but some pronounce it as Baya, and that meaning, in the way we say it's like, but to say Bai Rahman al Yas, that Hirsch Baruch wants to take us out by putting the egg, like we think of that phrase. There's a big discussion. Is what's the right way to pronounce it? Should we pronounce it Beta, like there's a Masechta in Shas? So it's spelled Bezia Tzadi Hey. But how should you pronounce it? Should you say Beta or should you say Beya? So there are proofs both ways. Should you say Beya or Beta? This would seem to indicate the proper way to say it's Beya. If Schechter says Beta, one of the proofs is that the Gemara discusses that there was this town where they got confused and they thought that swamp water, May Bitzayin, was the same as May Beitzin, egg water. So that only makes sense. May Bitzayin, that's for sure pronounced Bitzayin. So that only makes sense if you pronounce it like Beitza instead of Beya. That's another discussion for a different time. Another reason people use the egg is to remember the Avelis, the fact that we're mourning over the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so now we get to the actual night of the Seder. So before we start the Seder, many people have the minhag to say Hallel in Shul after Mariv. Some people say it with a bracha. Some people say full Hallel with a bracha. Some people say yes Hallel, no bracha. Some people say no Hallel at all. Okay, so you should follow whatever the practice is, whatever wherever you are that you daven. Everyone has practice. It's all good. Okay, what about women? Are women obligated in the mitzvahs of the Seder? So women are obligated. Yet they're obligated in all almost all the mitzvahs of the night, which include Haggadah and Maror and Matzah and the 4 cups of wine, because they were also involved in the miracle. Um, there are some times when people, not necessarily always a woman, but sometimes a woman, would have to leave the Seder for certain times. So if that's the case, um, they should there is an order of what one should prioritize in the Seder. We should make sure to be there for Kiddush, for Avadim Hayinu, and from Rabbi Gamliel until the 2nd cup of wine. And also be there to hear the 10 makos. Okay, and then we'll talk about leaning on the night of the Seder, that in every generation, person must view himself as if he left Egypt. Before that, Hashem li b'teit Mitzrayim, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to zachar taki eved hayita Mitzrayim, meaning you should remember as if you were an eved, you were a slave leaving Egypt yourself. So that's why a person needs to act on Seder night with a certain treat himself with a certain aspect of freedom. So a person needs to eat while leaning because that's how a person eats as a free person. The Kaf HaChaim, he explains that during the era of the Roman Empire, leaning, especially while one was eating, was a real sign of royalty and freedom. That's also the reason why a lot of people have the practice that they don't fill their own cups. They have other people fill the cup for them, or some people don't wash their own hands. They have others wash their hands for them. It's also suggested that leaning while eating is a reference to this circuitous route that God led an Israel out of the desert towards Eretz Yisrael, and that's alluded to the word that describes the journey via save, which relates to the word haseva. There's even a medrash that says that Jews were reclining upon beds as God took them out of Egypt. So those are all reasons why we lean during Seder night. When do we lean? So we lean when we eat the matzah, and we lean when we drink the 4 cups of wine. There are those who lean at other points in the Seder as well. There are those who eat the entire meal while leaning, but most people do not lean while eating the maror. There's a difference of opinion whether one should lean or sit upright when reciting the Haggadah. But you should just follow along in your Haggadah. That's probably the most practical thing. Your Haggadah tells you every time you should lean, and every time that you should not lean. When you're leaning, you should make sure to try to lean on a chair or a pillow or even another person. It's not really called leaning if you're just sort of tilting yourself towards the left. And you should have that in mind when you sit at the table, that everyone should be able to lean appropriately. How far do you need to lean? I don't think you need to lean all the way down. If Shlomo Zalman says 45-degree angle, I don't think you need to take a ruler and measure it. You could estimate, probably okay. But make sure to lean. You said when you're leaning, you should only lean. This I didn't know, that you should lean only after one recited, after you say the bracha on the wine or food. Like don't say, I don't know, I'm not sure why, but say the bracha and then lean. That's what was quoted. There's also the idea that you should lean to the left side, so that's pretty famous. Quote 2 reasons why you lean to the left side. Number 1, because people eat with their right hand, so practically makes a lot of sense to most people eat with their right hand, so it makes a lot of sense to lean to the left. Also, the most famous one is that leaning to the one right side is actually creates a choking hazard and it's dangerous, so you should lean to the left. So even if you're left-handed, they say to lean to the left is better because that's safer. This is very interesting that women are not required to lean during the Seder. though some rule that if the woman is a distinguished woman, she should lean. So that's a big discussion then. What is considered a distinguished woman? So the Beir states the Sephardi halacha says that all women today are considered distinguished women. So women that would basically mean that a woman should lead. Others say no, a distinguished woman means the daughter or wife of a distinguished man. Others say distinguished woman means an unmarried woman or a righteous woman, or a woman who has servants at her disposal. But the Ramah, who prosecutes for Ashkenazim, he says the custom is in Ashkenazi communities is women do not lean during the Seder. That's what the Ramah writes. Black and white in the Ramah. So that's what he says. The minhag is not to lean, but in most Sfardis, the women do lean. That's called by a Chaim. I think probably in most Ashkenazis today, at least in my Seders, the women always do lean because I guess what's the reason not to lean? It's pretty easy. You might as well just lean, and it's a nice idea to lean, but I guess the women don't actually have a strict obligation to lean during the Seder. What if you forgot to lean while eating? So some say that if you the mitzvah deraisa of eating the matzah, the first matzah. So if you forgot to lean, you would need to eat again. But for the afikomen, if you forgot to lean, you don't need to eat again. What about during the cups of wine? So during the cups of wine, I think most say that we can rely on the opinion, or there is an opinion that nobody needs to lean anymore. That's the opinion of the Rabbi. He holds that we don't need to lean at all anymore. So some rely on that for the if you in case you forgot to lean while you were drinking cups of wine. Or if you forgot to lean, but if you do it again, it's more than kedayis. If you no, that's fine. You can have more than a kedayis. That's no problem. I don't understand the question. Like you would eat too much matzah, that if you eat more than kedayis, that's better. Oh, for mar, they say not to lean for mar, I think. So that way, so then it's not a problem. Um, okay. Okay, so this is just another discussion about the four cups of wine. Just make sure that yeah, so we drink 4 cups of wine in accordance with the 4 words of redemption mentioned in the Psukim, and every person needs to drink these cups. You can't simply fulfill your obligation just by hearing the bracha and saying amen and having someone else drink the wine. That you should be the ones who drink the wine. The mitzvah is also that the cup should be presented in front of all the people at the table. And even if the child knows what's going on, you should also have a cup. Our practice is to make a bracha on every cup of wine. So that may not be the case for Sephardim. I think Sephardim just say it on the first and the third. So that's a big discussion. How are you able to say a bracha on every single cup of wine? Okay, so there's a lot of big discussion about that. I think the most simple answer, traditional answer, is because each cup is a mitzvah in and of itself. But Rav Simon Rabbi NYU, he just had a whole shir on it. So there's a big discussion on is that a good practice that we're saying the bracha on every single cup of wine, but that is what we do. Also, maybe because saying the Haggadah or saying the Hallel breaks up the in between the cups of wine, so you'd say new bracha. But the discussion is that when you drink the wine, there needs to be at least a revius of wine in the cup. So there's a whole lot of articles and different opinions they could look up how much exactly is one revius of wine. 5 fluid ounces, 2.9 fluid ounces. If you drink like a normal amount, you fill it up more than 5 ounces, I think you're for sure okay. The other discussions that the Ramban holds that one needs to drink most of the cup. So therefore, you shouldn't fill some, you shouldn't have a cup that's too big because then you're going to drink too much wine and you're going to get sick. So make sure you have a normal size cup, but the cup should still be big enough that you're going to drink the correct amount. And you can look online to see what all the correct amounts are, but I assume most cups that we have are probably big enough. Um, last thing, our last thing that we'll end on, um, is talking about just starting the Seder, that a person should have make sure his table is set up so that as soon as it gets dark, you can start the Seder without waiting. And that so that it doesn't get too late so that the children can participate. But you don't want to actually start the Seder too early because you need to wait until stars come out, taste kochavim, because there are all these the kiddush and the matzah that all need to be done in the night. And many have the practice to put all these different types of things on the tables, like candies or gadgets, so that the children realize this is a different night than all other nights. Because the main part of the mitzvah of telling it over to your children is fulfilled by the children asking questions, and you answering them. So you should try to make sure that they're up and keep them alert as best as you can. You should also use nice dishes because that's a sign of freedom. Um, and then also you should have a Seder plate. Not everyone needs a Seder plate, just the 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 leader of the Seder needs a Seder plate, and everyone can take from his plate. But some people all like to have their own Seder plate. There's different ways that one can organize their Seder plate. The Ramah made his Seder plate in a way where she didn't have to pass over a single mitzvah. But other people arrange their Seder plate differently based on the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, or the Rizal. Finally, close with this is that the Taz, right, that there's an idea to wear a kittel on Seder night because he writes that that's the clothes that is for people who die, and we wear it to remind ourselves that we're kind of dust and we're going to return to dust because we may forget that out of the tremendous joy of the night. We're going to just forget that. So we should remember, that the life is not eternal. That's what the Torah says. Um, there's debate whether to wear a kittel during your first year of marriage or not. Um, but that's what the Torah quotes. So I was just thinking, and we'll close with this, is that perhaps there's another reason to wear kittel, not said by the Taz. I'm not sure if anyone else said this, but this is just something that I was thinking based on an idea I heard that maybe the reason why we wear a kittel on Seder night is also because we wear a kittel we wear kittel at the wedding, and then we wear a kittel again on Yom Kippur. And then the only other time we wear a kittel is on Seder night. So maybe there's the idea of this kittel that has to do with tefillah, with davening to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So Rav Eliyahu Guttmacher, who was a Rav in Germany during the 19th century, I think, or the 18th century. So he asked the following question. Then he said, just take you back to Purim for a second, is that Haman made a lottery, and that lottery was made in Nisan. And the date that the lottery fell out to destroy the Jewish people was Yud Gimel Adar, right? So he's in Nisan, and the date that the Jews are going to be destroyed is Yud Gimel Adar. So Esther and Mordechai, they declared a fast for 3 days. So when did they declare that fast take place? That fast, they declared the fast would take place during Nisan. So this was 11 months so before the decree was going to take place. Haman said that they're going to destroy the Jews all the way next to Yud Gimel Adar. And here Esther and Mordechai are saying during Nisan, we're going to declare fast. So when would you think the best time is to fast and to daven? You might have thought probably Yom Kippur, maybe Rosh Hashanah, because those are the best times to daven. And Chazal actually tell us that because of this fast, that the Jews of Mordechai and Esther's time, they didn't do their Seder. They didn't eat matzah. They didn't eat mar on Pesach because of this fast. They fasted on the days 14, 15, and 16 of Pesach. So what was this rush to fast? Why not just wait until a better time? We at least wait till after Pesach. Why do they have to do this so soon? So Rav Gomracher, he says that this is the proof that the greatest time of the year of requesting of Yisrat, and the time where Kadosh Baruch Hu, God, listens to our prayers, is the night of Pesach. It's not Rosh Hashanah, it's not Yom Kippur, it's the night of Pesach. And Mordechai and Esther understood that if they didn't use this time, Yisrat, and this time where God listens to them, to listen to their prayers, that they would not be able to break the evil decree of Haman. So perhaps another reason why we wear the kittel on Seder night is to remind us that this is a time also of tefillah, of crying out to God, for God to listen to our prayers. And perhaps we can have that, especially in mind this year when so many people are in need of prayers, or Am Yisrael is in need of prayers. And that's just, I think, another idea to strengthen us during this time. Shkoyach, everyone.
Thank you, Roey.